What's up, guys? Welcome back to my Then versus Now series, where I show you guys how I used to make recipes when I first started my culinary journey versus how I would make it now. Alfredo is on the menu. Meet me in the kitchen. Let's make it happen. All right, guys, Alfredo is basically one of the first things most people learn how to make, probably in the top 3 or 4 things that you learn when you first move out on your own. I used to make mine with jarred Alfredo sauce, frozen broccoli, shrimp, chicken, whatever I could get my hands on. I would make it in a big batch and we would eat it for 2 or 3 days. I'm gonna show you guys how I used to make it when I first moved out of my house when I was 18, and then I'm gonna show you how I make it today. Now, it pains me to admit this, but there were times back in the day that I would use pre-cooked shrimp for this recipe. I'm not gonna go that far today. We're gonna cook some medium to large size shrimp here that have already been needle deveined from Wegmans. We're gonna go ahead and cook our fettuccine pasta per package instructions. We got the green top Parmesan, so you know the party's gonna be nice. We got Ragu Alfredo sauce. I'm gonna do my best to make this taste as authentic as possible to my 18-year-old self. If you got that jarred minced garlic, you can add that, a little dried parsley from the jar. Classic Alfredo today. So for the seasoning, when it comes to the shrimp, we're gonna keep it real simple. Just a little olive oil or avocado oil, some all-purpose, and some lemon bay. Feel free to use whatever seasoning you like. Back in the day, I would use things like Tony's Creole seasoning, a little salt and pepper, you know, something Cajun was always in the pantry. But now, we're gonna go with AP and lemon bay, and that's gonna get the job done. Perfect on shrimp, it's good on poultry, really can't go wrong. There we go. Just get in there with your hands, mix that seasoning in, make sure the shrimp are evenly coated. You want to saute them in some butter, set them aside, and then add them back to the pasta at the very end. That way they don't overcook too badly. All right, so we got a little butter in the skillet, because why the hell not? Butter makes everything better, including this awful jarred Alfredo sauce that I can't believe I used to eat. Let me know in the comments if you're still eating jarred Alfredo sauce. No judgment, at least not publicly. We'll go ahead and get our shrimp into the skillet. Cook it until it's done. Probably 3 or 4 minutes in total is all it's going to take. Obviously, it's going to continue to cook a little bit in the sauce once we mix it with the pasta. Real simple. Can't go wrong with shrimp Alfredo. Fellas, if this is all your woman's cooking for you still to this day, I don't know what to tell you. Just follow my channel and you can cook for yourself. And now it's time for the fun part. In that same skillet, we cooked the shrimp with all that leftover flavor. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter, some jarred or minced garlic, fresh garlic if you're feeling real fancy, or you can get it out of the tube like we did today. We're gonna mix that in with our garlic, and then we're gonna add our jarred Alfredo sauce. This is what I do for you guys. In goes the highly processed, God knows what's in here. Let's see. Water, soybean oil, cream, Parmesan cheese, modified food starch, egg yolk, part skim milk cheese cultures, whey protein concentrate, 1 gram of protein. Shout out to the whey protein. All right, we're gonna give that a mix. Incorporate that butter and garlic. And then pray for the best, you know? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and season this up. A little AP, a little Cajun seasoning. Whatever you got. Some dried parsley, if you're feeling, you know, fancy. And then I'm gonna go in with some Parmesan cheese. This Parmesan right here should be reserved strictly for pizza, but back in the day, that's all I knew. We're gonna add in our broccoli, toss in the fettuccine, add the shrimp, and boom. You got yourselves a gourmet Alfredo situation. All right, guys, I'm gonna be honest. This actually looks pretty damn good. Now, if I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I would eat this in front of the TV, Netflix, probably a Simply lemonade of some sort. Probably double the size of this plate, and loads of this stuff right here. Let's see what we got. I'm not mad at that. That's like a 8 out of 10 right there.
For what it is or for Alfredo in general?
Out in the world, this ain't bad out in the world. At home, you know, that's good. Let's see what y'all think.
You know what? Yeah. I should after the club one for sure.
Yeah.
That should have hit the spot after the club.
Yeah.
Starving, drunk. All right, guys, so now it's time to make the elevated version. So Alfredo in itself is a fairly simple recipe. It shouldn't be overly complicated. There are a couple things that we can do to elevate the basic flavors that come with Alfredo. Alfredo is essentially just butter, heavy cream, and Parmesan. That is the 3 ingredients that make a traditional Alfredo sauce. We're gonna elevate it a little bit with things like garlic, onions. We're using a more interesting pasta-shaped malfodine today instead of just fettuccine or spaghetti. We're also gonna use salmon, not quite as common. It kind of is nowadays, but not so much traditionally. It's gonna elevate the plate a little bit as well. A couple other flavor enhancers. We'll throw some spinach in there for color, and it's gonna be delicious. So let's get right to it. All right, guys, so for the salmon, or any protein really, I like to season the presentation side last. So we're starting with the skin side. The skin's obviously been removed. This is not gonna be the money side or the presentation side, so we're gonna season it first. That way it can get a little messed up on the flip. We're gonna go ahead and hit it with a little salt, a little AP, and some lemon bay seasoning. I'm using additional salt because both of these are low sodium. That way you can kind of, you know, monitor the sodium intake. If you got some folks out there that are watching their sodium, you can omit the additional salt, no big deal. Flip them over, and then this is gonna be the side that we're gonna present to our guest or to ourselves. This is gonna ensure that the color is even, and it's gonna make it nice and pretty. Next up, my friends, it's time to go ahead and sear that salmon as promised. Remember, presentation side down first, seasoned last. So lay it on in there. I don't want the pan to be scorching hot because I want an even color on the salmon. And low and slow will help us obtain that. Also want to press down to make sure it's making maximum surface area contact with the skillet. That's going to, again, ensure an even color and even sear. Let's give it like 2 minutes, 90 seconds, maybe depending on how hot your pan is. Check it. Once the color is beautiful, flip it over. Gonna finish it in a 400-degree oven. All right, guys, now it's time to make our Alfredo from scratch. Very simple. We got a little oil in the pan, about 3 tablespoons of butter. We're gonna allow that butter to begin to melt. We're also gonna go ahead and cook down some onion, some fresh garlic, a little spinach. You need 2 cups of heavy cream and about a cup or so of Parmesan cheese. Real simple, guys. Maybe 20% more difficult than the jarred stuff. Still, it's very easy. You know what's in your sauce, not all those, you know, crazy, super processed ingredients. So we're gonna cook down this onion. This is about a half of an onion here. Once the onion gets a head start, we're going in with a couple tablespoons of fresh garlic. You can add some red pepper flakes for just a little hint of heat if that's your thing. If not, you can leave that out. Then we're going with the spinach for health. Allow that to cook down. Once all of this cooks down and some of that water from the spinach and onions evaporates, we'll go in with our heavy cream. And then last but not least, the Parmesan cheese to thicken it up. And then we'll season it to taste. All right, guys, so the key here is to bring up the heavy cream to a gentle boil for a couple minutes. Allow it to kind of reduce and naturally thicken up a bit. And then you want to turn the heat to low or even off potentially if your low setting is not low enough. And then add in your cheese. You don't want to add in the cheese while it's boiling because the fat will start to separate and you'll have an oily Alfredo. Once you get your cheese incorporated, we're going to cut it with just a little bit of lemon juice. That's going to add some freshness, a little acidity, kind of offset or balance out the richness from the butter and the cream and the cheese. Season it to taste, and then you got yourself Alfredo sauce. All right, people, there you have it. Cajun salmon Alfredo with malfodine pasta. Can't go wrong with this. Easy, homemade, delicious, simple, pretty inexpensive too, depending on how much you pay for your salmon. We're gonna go ahead and get in here for the taste test. But before we do that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications as well. Quick reminder, guys, this recipe and all of my recipes can be found at MrMakeItHappen.com. Let's see what we got. Got some pasta. Got some salmon. I think I did that in reverse order, but it's my show. There we go. Cheers. That's money. Give me another bite of salmon for the road.
The perfect pork chop.
Sometimes better to be lucky than good.
Make this.